So if I can ask you to give a warm welcome to one of the most hardest working black MPs in the House of Parliament today, Bellavia Ribeiro-Addy.
Thank you very much, everybody, and I was really pleased to see so many people here tonight. Not just that, so many people I know that are joining us online. Now, we've just seen how devastating it is in the past couple of weeks across a number of places in the Caribbean, actually. All of these different homes torn apart and the families displaced and entire communities that are left without food, shelter or water. And for those of us with friends and loved ones across the region, it isn't something that's distant or abstract or something that's just on the news. It's deeply personal. Now, a friend of mine, author Nova Reid, she shared with me some of the heartbreaking accounts from some of her family in Jamaica, many of them who remain displaced with nowhere safe to sleep. Women and children in particular are at risk. The elderly are facing illness and exhaustion, and in Montego Bay, bodies are being found in the river near the Rastafari village. She told me that a mother in St. Elizabeth told her that she cannot care for her child and all they want is food, clean water, and the chance to take a shower even. These are not luxuries, but they are basic human needs. Nova also told me that some of her own loved ones went for days without food or water. And she only managed to get help for them through an independent charity, walking supplies in on foot after using her own social media platform to raise awareness. Now, I think generally, that's utterly unacceptable. People shouldn't have to rely on informal networks of compassion when entire nations are crying out for a coordinated and professional aid effort. And yes, the government of the UK pledged 2.5 million initially in emergency humanitarian funding. This has recently been included to 5 million. Relief and supplies have been sent, technical experts. The Royal Navy's HMS Trent is on standby and flights have been chartered to bring British nationals and Windrush generation residents home. These are welcome steps, but I will say to you, and I do have agreement from others in the House, that this is nowhere near enough, not from this country. Now, I think it's very important that we put this in perspective. The total destruction, as you heard, right across the Caribbean is anywhere from 48 million to $52 billion. And that is against the scale of devastation. So £5 million is a drop in the ocean. It's just symbolic. And what's needed is actually a global and coordinated rescue and reconstruction effort. And it's a symbolic gesture when we think about the billions that have been extracted from Jamaica and other countries in the Caribbean from over the transatlantic slave trade and over the period of colonialism. So all of these things in comparison are nothing. And right now, we've got communities that are doing their very best with what little they have. They are supporting each other. People are sleeping in schools, on desks. Those who still have standing structures have no tarpaulins to cover their roofs, and there's just hunger and desperation all around, which is leading to looting. So a lot of the things that are being sent, and I've seen the efforts in across Brixton, actually across the country, a lot of these things, when they get there, they are being looted and they are not going to people that are most in need. Now, the Jamaican government is trying. They are really, really trying. They've set up a system for people who to report incidents, but the communication failures and the power outages mean that so many people that are crying for help are not actually being answered. And the inability to mobilise aid effectively has become almost as destructive as the hurricane itself. Remember, Jamaica are doing this not with just one hand, but both hands tied behind their back. It is a country, we have to remember, that is steeped in debt. They may have shaken off the shackles of enslavement and colonialism, but those shackles have been replaced with other shackles, debts, underdevelopment. And what should be used on climate resilience is actually used on debt and development instead. So every single year when they are hit, they have to keep spending money on things that are not immediate needs. So the truth is, what we're seeing is not just a natural disaster. It's the result of climate injustice. And I want to touch on climate injustice for a little bit. The Caribbean didn't cause the climate crisis, but it's one of those regions that bears the huge brunt of it. We did. We in the West did. And I wouldn't be surprised if the carbon emissions of Jamaica were less than that of Lambeth, just this borough. Now, over the past few years, we've seen with climate breakdown that the storms are stronger, the flooding is worse, and the recovery takes much longer because of this, because those nations have been systematically under-resourced and underdeveloped and left to cope alone. And so, yes, we need immediate humanitarian aid, and that's one of the important things that is being called for tonight. But ultimately, the UK need to do more, because we need to see climate resilience. We need to see climate resilience. And that's what Lee was speaking about, a long-term strategy, not this patchwork thing. This is not the first time, it's may have been one of the worst times, but it's not the first time the region has been hit by a bad hurricane. And each time we go for these patchwork strategies that, simply rebuilds what was there before, but we need the kind of strategy, rather, that ensures that homes can withstand the next storm and that communities can store water and generate energy and stay connected when the rains come again, because the storms will keep on coming. They will keep on coming. They call it hurricane season. It's not hurricane sometimes. It's hurricane season because they come and come again, and we know they're coming, but the resilience has not been built, and that's not right. And climate justice has to be seen as not just climate resilience has to be seen as not just charity. It is about justice, and it has to be recognised as a central pillar, and it is recognised, as a central pillar of the reparations movement. And I mention reparations here because I genuinely believe that this is an issue that should be discussed in this context. It's not just about the past, it's about repairing the ongoing damage of inequality today. And if you don't think that what the people in Jamaica are suffering from is yes, there was a hurricane, but ultimately it's inequality. It's inequality that has been just exacerbated over decades and decades. Reparations, in my view, would be about giving the Caribbean nations and all those affected the agency and the resources to protect their people from future hurricanes. Aid doesn't do that in itself. Yes, we need aid right now, but I'm not saying that aid is bad. I'm not saying the efforts that are being made are bad. We need them. We need them, but it's about resilience and it's about dignity for me. So when we rebuild, you absolutely have to rebuild better, and rebuild better in a way that Jamaica can sustain itself. And there's another thing that I want to acknowledge that Nova did touch on when we spoke, and it's also recognising the trauma doesn't stop at the shoreline. Many communities definitely across Lambeth and across other parts of the country are feeling it. As being part of the Caribbean diaspora and living with fear and grief, people have lost loved ones. People can't get in touch with their loved ones. And all that fear and that grief and that helplessness watching families suffering from afar and wondering if the things that you're sending and the money you're sending is even getting to them. So it's important that we have those trauma-informed spaces as well for the community. And I'm pleased that you've gathered here today. Now, I want to be clear that the plan that we have can't wait, and that is another reason why it's important today. The world can't look away, and let's be real. What we saw, or what we are seeing, already it's being dropped off the news. It's not as high priority in the news, but you've heard from the High Commissioner himself, this is going to take months, if not years. And we need to make sure that people's attention are firmly on this, because they will just go to the next news story, to the next disaster. And that's going to be a huge, huge issue. So, I believe that we need an urgent, coordinated international response, not just to respond to the disaster, but prevent the next disaster. And I want to see this country invest properly in climate resilience, in sustainable infrastructure, not just as charity, but as acknowledgement of our historic responsibility. Because we have to answer with more than sympathy. We have to answer with action, because we have a duty because of what was done to Jamaica and Jamaicans by this country. And that's important, that we treat these actions as climate justice, as reparative justice, not just aid. It has to be a duty, because the storms are going to keep coming, and the suffering will, if we don't start to look at it in a slightly different way. So myself and my colleagues right across Parliament, we will be calling for more to be done. But as I said, importantly, we have to be calling for it not as a matter of aid, but as a matter of responsibility, as a matter of duty. We have a duty to the people of Jamaica, not just those that have family members there or have links to them or enjoyed a holiday there one day and want to give little bits of aid. This country, our country, the United Kingdom, has a duty to Jamaica.
Thank you.